1, 2.
Check, check. Okay. Welcome to the regular council meeting for Monday, February 23rd. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are gathering on the unceded traditional territory of what is now known as the Comox Nation, and we are grateful for their care and stewardship of this land since time immemorial. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Move the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. And there are minutes from Village Hall February 2nd, Committee of the Whole February 9th, and regular council February 9th for adoption.
Move the minutes.
Second.
And everyone's in favor of that. Thank you. First up is correspondence from Comox First Nation. A request for a letter of support for addition to reserve. Does anyone have questions on that? Comments?
Happy to support.
Then there is a recommendation there. We are
I'll move
so
the-
inclined.
I'll move the council provide a letter to the Comox First Nation in support of the addition to reserve application to the Government of Canada for one 17.21 hectare parcel of fee simple land held by the nation in the Piercy Road area.
Second.
All in favor? And that is carried as well. And next up is University of Victoria Accelerating Community Energy Transformation, also known as ACIT Engineering Scoping Study. You want to speak to it, or do you want me to? So this was a decision of council in 2024, I want to say, to allocate funding to help move the scoping study for engineering, looking at our mine water geo-exchange project. And given the interest out at the industrial lands and the continued interest of ACIT and the limited capacity our staff has, ACIT has requested that or offered to manage the contract with the engineering company, Falcon, to do this work. So rather than the village managing that contract, ACIT and our lead at ACIT would manage that contract. Questions or comments on that?
Yes. This was December the 9th, I think 2024, when we made that motion for this. And I know at that time I asked about the objectives of that study and the deliverables. I think it was said that we'd be able to receive some news on that, and I don't recall that. Still feel I'm not sure quite what we're buying here. What are we to get out of the what's the study meant to deliver? The objective.
So I can try and answer that, and if anybody else has more information, feel free. So the opportunity is to look at the mine water areas and look at risk and mitigation and look at feasibility of a demonstration, a pilot sort of geo-exchange project, and prepare the groundwork for an application likely for a grant to do some preliminary drilling to see whether or not the water and the depth and the temperature and all the other things that need to happen underneath the ground are actually there to move forward.
Okay. I mean, my wish is that, well, firstly, my wish is that this works and this would be great. And I feel it's incumbent on us to make sure we sort of send it through gates of, could it even possibly work through? Ooh, how would it work through? Ooh, that's good. And if it doesn't pass any of those gates, we have to ask some other questions and work out what we've learned. So, my first question here is: in an ideal world, in a best case scenario, would this be comparable with whatever the current default energy supply is for an industry? And that seems like the first question to me, and the objective I'd like to see from a study. And firstly, that's me, not necessarily will of council, and also I'm not sure of the best way to communicate that because I don't know the exact scope of work.
Right, and I think that our lead from ACIT is planning on coming for an update on the project in March, I think, and to give us more information on what that might look like. But the work with Falcon Engineering has been ongoing for some time, and they are the engineering firm that designed and built well, maybe they didn't build it, but they designed the Vancouver Island University system. And so they have an idea of how to see whether or not this is feasible, and I believe this is the first step to getting us to one of those checkpoints to say, is it something we want to pursue or is it not? So we committed that $10,000 to get us to that first gate, I guess.
Can I just jump in as well and just answer a bit of that? So on December 9th, you had wanted to know what the objectives of the grant was that we were doing the feasibility study to get us to, and what it would end up as the further work to get us through. But the $10,000 you guys decided to commit to, so that you could do the initial feasibility studies to be able to apply for grants. And then you had wanted more information is what I thought I understood. But so I thought the $10,000 was okay and confirmed. It was beyond that I think you wanted more information about, but I might be.
Well, I'm fine. I understand council took a decision to spend that money. That decision is taken, and there's some variation going on here. And I just wanted to communicate that certainly for me to go further and try and look at spending further grant money needs an answer to that. Is it looking like a customer would buy it if we built it?
That's what you had wanted to.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a recommendation there. It's a bit long.
I move the council grant $10,000 to the University of Victoria Accelerating Community Energy Transformation Research Group for the purposes of an engineering scoping study on a Bevan Industrial Area No. 4 site mine water geothermal district energy system, and that council, as a condition of the grant, require that ACET submit a report compiling the results of the study to the village at the completion of the project, and that council delegate to staff the entering of a letter of offer and completion of an application form for the purposes of exempting University of Victoria overhead so that the full grant amount can be expended on the engineering scoping study.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? And none opposed. That's carried unanimously as well. Next up is reports. Heritage Alteration Permit Nikkei Hohaka Japanese Cemetery. Hi, Jasmine.
Once again, before we begin today, I would like to acknowledge the cultural, historical, and spiritual significance of the Nikkei no Haka Japanese. I'm so sorry. Yeah, the Nikkei no Haka Japanese Cemetery, the site stands as a lasting link to the Japanese Canadian community of Cumberland and to those who were displaced and affected by wartime internment and discrimination. It remains a place of remembrance, reflection, and ongoing connection for descendants and the wider community. The purpose of this report is to request approval of a heritage alteration permit to replace the existing fence with a wooden picket fence and install new interpretive signage at the Nikkei no Haka Japanese Cemetery, as well as to add the site to the Cumberland Community Heritage Register. This HAP application is being presented to the Council for the second time after referral to the Heritage Committee. The Nikkei no Haka Japanese Cemetery is located on Union Road, adjacent to the Chinese Cemetery, and is valued as the final resting place of approximately 198 Japanese Canadian miners, mill workers, loggers, tailors, entrepreneurs, and their family members who lived in Cumberland and the Comox Valley until 1942. This project is one of the 3 projects being undertaken by the village to commemorate Japanese heritage in Cumberland. The projects are funded by the Japanese Canadian Legacy Society. The cemetery is designated as a heritage property by bylaw, and any alterations to the cemetery other than those exempted in the bylaw are subject to a heritage alteration permit and approval of the council. A wooden picket fence currently encloses the cemetery. The fence was initially restored in 1967 and again in 1986 and 2003. The fence has deteriorated and requires full replacement. The village is the property owner, and the applicant of the HAP proposes to replace the existing fence with a new fence similar in style and to install new interpretive sign along the north boundary of the parcel along the walkway as visitors approach the cemetery. The initial proposal included reducing the fence line. However, in response to the feedback received by members of the public as well as the Heritage Committee, the applicant has been able to secure additional funding to extend the new fence to the existing fence line. Hence, the proposal has changed and reduction in fence line is no longer proposed. The boulders, which were originally proposed to be installed in the area without the fence, will now be placed in conjunction with the fence. They are not intended as a replacement for the fence, but rather as a protective measure to help mitigate the risk of vehicle collision. The SOS identifies the fence as one of its character-defining elements. During discussion, the Heritage Committee suggested that the bottom rail be placed to overlap the bottom edge of the fence and recommended that the fence design should follow the design in historic photographs more closely, and the applicant has worked with the designer to accommodate this improvement. Minor amendments from the historic design, like increasing the distance between the bottom of the fence and the ground, as well as addition of concrete posts, have been made to prevent moisture damage and premature rotting, and staff are supportive of these amendments to ensure longevity of the fence. Both members of the public as well as the Heritage Committee were supportive of the installation of signage in the location proposed. The specific details of the content of the signage are outside the scope of this HAP, but the applicant is encouraged to incorporate these suggestions received as part of feedback when finalizing it. The cost of the new fence and signage will be funded by the Japanese Canadian Legacies Program, and the installation will be coordinated by the Village Community Services staff with support from the consultant team funded by the Japanese Canadian Legacy Programs. Program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for bringing this back with the larger scope of the fence. Yes, Courtney, go ahead.
Thank you. And just to note, there was that late item 7.1, which was to replace the permit, to correct an error in the permit.
Okay. Do we need a motion to do something with that? No.
I think the motion's in there.
I think if the motion recognizes that it's the corrected permit that's being
Okay.
issued, it's sufficient.
Okay. Okay, great. Questions, council?
No, just really happy to see that some additional funds have come forward to complete the fence. I think it's going to look great out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for all your work on this.
Yeah, I was very grateful that the community found a good way to bring information forward, and that staff and the project funder were open to hearing that and working and creating a solution. It's great. So.
Great. There's a recommendation
Move the
there.
council approve the heritage alteration permit, HAP 2505, for the property described as Lot E, Section 25, Township 10, Comox District Plan, VIP 65968, except part in Plan VIP 67631, Nikkei no Haka Japanese Cemetery. The council add that Nikkei no Haka Japanese Cemetery, documented with a statement of significance and protected by heritage designation, bylaw number 883 to the Community Heritage Register.
Second.
All in favor? Excellent. Thank you so much. Looking forward to having that project actually come to fruition. Okay, next up is development permit, deferred services covenant, and frontage waiver for approval, Bevan Road Industrial Subdivision. Hello, Seamus.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the purpose of this report is to request council decisions on matters relating to a subdivision application along Bevan Road for Aciano Developments. So the three authorizations we're presenting tonight are approval of development permit for development permit 2504, a development permit for DPA 1, environmental protection, authorization to proceed with a deferred services covenant to be registered on the created parcels, and approval of a local government act frontage waiver. So just for clarity, the parcel that we're discussing today is a large piece of land that is located to the northwest of Beck Avenue, but it does run along Bevan Road northbound. So it's kind of got a few jigs and jags to it, but it's in that vicinity. So the subdivision application that we're considering at this time is an on-paper subdivision. So it's to facilitate a land sale. So the applicant is seeking to purchase some land off the current landowner, and as such wishes to create 2 lots in order to facilitate that purchase. So as part of this subdivision, there won't be any development, so lots created for further industrial development at this time, no roads or any servicing. So it really is just a subdivision to create a land sale. That said, they still require a development permit, and once the applicant is ready to develop on those properties, a new subdivision application and development permits will be required. So the permit we're considering today is really just to facilitate that land sale. So the development permit, and one thing I should note is that this application was received prior to the new official community plan being adopted. So in the area now, if someone came in for an subdivision application out there today, they'd also require development permit area 2 for groundwater protection, but that was only added in the new OCP. So they don't require that permit as part of this process since they're considered in stream and protected as such. So only the development permit area 1 is required as part of this subdivision application. So in support of the application, a bio-inventory was prepared, and overall, this was compliant with our development permit area guidelines. Many items identified in this report, including Scotch broom remediation, tree preservation, those can be deferred to when development actually occurs on that lot and when we do get a lot layout to consider them against. So that'll just be deferred to when development actually occurs on the property. The bio-inventory did not identify any environmentally sensitive areas, nor did it identify any species at risk on the to-be-created properties, but it did acknowledge that these resources exist outside of the boundaries of the proposed lots. So those areas will not be impacted as part of this proposal. There's the issue of item of the 200-meter wildlife corridor, which was identified in the Bevan Industrial Lands Concept Plan. So that study, which was done back in 2020, identified a 200-meter animal corridor or a wildlife corridor to connect from the lake to the wetland across Bevan Road. So in that plan, that corridor was identified on this property. However, the biologists actually recommended that the corridor be moved to the property to the north of the subject subdivision. And furthermore, under the new zoning bylaw and official community plan, this corridor has actually been zoned and protected as such on the property to the north. So it will be accounted for, just not as part of this development process, and it is protected on the property to the immediate north of the subject property. There was also an identified grove of mature trees on the proposed lots, which is adjacent to this proposed wildlife corridor. So once development occurs on the to-be-created lots, we will protect those mature trees via covenant, much like we did for the previous Aciano phase last year. Finally, the report also identified illegal dumping on the property. However, we'll be addressing this as part of our standard procedure with bylaw services, making contact with the owner and applicant to get that resolved. So that is certainly on our radar and would be resolved through our normal channels. On to the deferred services covenant. So of course, when a subdivision application comes in, we do require servicing, including water, storm, sewer, be installed as part of that application. As this application is just to facilitate a land sale, there's going to be no actual development such as installing servicing. So what we're seeking to do is have a deferred services covenant registered on both created lots, and basically this ensures that no further development will happen on the properties until servicing is provided. So it's a standard procedure with what we did on the previous phases of Aciano, and we require council authorization as per the subdivision bylaw to proceed as such. Finally, there's the item of the LGA Local Government Act 10% waiver. And of course, this requirement is in the Local Government Act and is designed to ensure that access to created lots is established. And this, of course, was created before zoning bylaw requirements had minimum frontage requirements. The Local Government Act requirement is that the frontage for the lot must be greater than 10% of the lot perimeter. In this case, as the proposed lots touch the Beck Avenue, that is actually considered the frontage, whereas of course the frontage along Bevan Road would still meet. Since that short frontage on Beck Avenue is the shortest, we do consider that the frontage, and of course that frontage would not meet the 10% proviso, so we're looking at a 1% as opposed to 10%. So there's no concerns with this access proposal, since access can still be achieved off that Beck Avenue stub and of course along Bevan Road. And of course, since the subdivision is to facilitate a land sale, it's not warranted to reconfigure the lots. So yeah, that is our report, and I welcome your questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Questions, council, comments?
Okay, if I may. So thank you for referencing the wildlife corridor. Am I correct in my understanding you say that is already firmly protected by OCP and zoning?
That's correct. So it'll be on to the north of the subject property.
Thank you. You mentioned the railroad grade in the report. That trail will be is guaranteed by the subdivision process. Is that what I understood?
That's correct. So we are securing a portion of the railway grade as part of the subdivision process to become a future trail.
All right. And then you referenced the grove of trees. You said that you'd be protected at a later point. Are they protected in the interim between now and whenever the next step would happen?
Right. So what you're asking is if there's any possibility they could take down those trees in the interim?
Yes.
So they would have to develop the property in accordance with the development permit. So if they were to take down those trees, for example, then they would be in violation of the development permit. So that does provide us a level of protection at this early stage. And then once the development permit application for the next, to actually develop the lots comes in, that's when we grab the covenant to fully secure the trees in place.
Is there an option? I mean, I see that it says for clarity, no subdivision servicing or site preparation is permitted, or tree felling. And is there an option, since we're writing a covenant anyway right now, is there an option to protect those trees since the legal work's being done in that covenant immediately?
If you want to, sure.
Well, so first part of the question, yeah, we could certainly add that to the development permit. Also, no tree cutting in that area, and we considered requiring that covenant now, and the reasons why is we do think that the requirement for a development permit does protect those trees in the interim. And if we were to, I think it makes sense for the exact covenant area to be surveyed when the subdivision itself is designed. I mean, even like a few centimeters here and there would require a resurvey later on. So on balance, our view was that there's not much greater protection provided in the interim by a covenant compared to needing a development permit. And it's much more practical for that specific area to be defined in the next stage.
Thank you. If we're assured that, and maybe an amendment in the motion, that those trees can be referenced and protected by this development permit, then and with the developer's track record, then I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think there's, even with subdivision, there's no, you're not allowed to do any land alteration until you have a DP. So that means trees or anything.
That's correct. So in order to the DPA one is designed to preserve environmental features as they're discovered on properties. So by virtue of that, the permit does says you have to develop according to the approved permit. So that does give us that control.
Okay.
Given that's fact, I'm happy with the permit as written then.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for this. I think most of my questions are going to come when we go to the next level of subdivision. But as we're heading down that road, I'm still concerned with the long-term costs of servicing all of these lands. And as we move into this third phase, are we going to be requiring liquid waste pipes? So those we're going to be envisioning those kinds of services going in at this next phase?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. Those are expensive and very long, and they will soon belong to the village. And do we have a long-term plan as to how we're going to finance the life cycle costs of those yet before we start heading down this road?
Yeah, go ahead.
Short answer, no. Long answer, we're still waiting on the financial sustainability plan grant that we've applied for. And also what hasn't been started yet but will be started in the next year and a half is an asset management plan, and they would definitely be brought in. And also we would, bring that back to you anyway, even without any of those plans, and say, like, you're going to need to start putting money aside for this. And then rate structures and taxes would follow.
Okay, yeah, because at the last report we received, I believe in March of last year, so almost a year ago now, it didn't look from that report like we were going to raise enough taxes on these lands at the current tax rates. So yeah, we're going to have a hard look at that as we move forward with this. Okay.
Thanks for those comments, Councillor. Anything else, or we can move that recommendation?
I'll move that council approve the development permit for the purpose of a 3-lot subdivision of the lots legally described as Section 34, Township 10, Comox District Plan 552H, except those parts shown outlined in red on Plan 21 RW and in plans VIP 55123, VIP 69987, EPP 93477, EPP 111856, EPP 127706, and EPP 130046, and that part of Section 34, Township 10, Comox District Plan 552H, included in Plan 21 RW, except part in Plan VIP 69987, EPP 111856, and EPP 130046, and that council authorize staff to enter into a covenant with the owner to defer required servicing as per subdivision and development bylaw number 948/2012 until development proceeds on the created lots, and that council exempt proposed Lot 2 and the 10% minimum frontage requirement pursuant to Local Government Act Section 512 to allow a frontage of 1%.
Thank you,
Second.
Councillor.
I got the
Somebody
hard
owes
part
me
there.
for that.
Nicely done. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously as well. Next up, BC Bike Race 2026 Noise Control Bylaw Exemption and Road Closure Requests. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, good evening. How are we doing?
Excellent. BC Bike Race.
Okay, I'm going to try to stay out of the penalty box this week. So yeah, staff are working with the organizers of BC Bike Race once again to permit the Cumberland portion of the BC Bike Race in late May. That's a couple months earlier than it has been in the past. So part of that process, of course, is adjudicating the road closure and noise bylaw exemption requests that are the subject of this report. So starting with the road closure, we're looking at Saturday, May 23rd. The organizers are planning to start that day of the race on Dunsmuir Avenue as opposed to from Village Park. They haven't done this in recent years, but they did do this in the past several years ago. Part of the reason for doing that, I believe, is to mitigate some of the impacts to both users of the colliery and nearby residents to Village Park. So the request, it's there in the report. It's a series of rolling closures between 6:30 and 10:45 a.m. Along Dunsmuir, starting at 2nd Street, running down Sutton, and then down toward the Yellow Gate. A few other details. Our engineering and public works staff, they are in approval of the closure, pending submission of an acceptable traffic management plan, which would be a regular part of the process. And to the same extent, the village's fire department is also in approval of it, pending submission of a emergency management plan. In terms of BC Transit, 5 buses would be affected by the closure. The first 2 would be affected very minimally. In theory, they could divert down Derwent and it wouldn't affect any bus stops. The other 3 buses would require some more significant changes that our engineering and public works staff would work with them on. And yeah, we'd have to see how that gets worked out. In the report, there's content that has been provided by the applicant in terms of the economic and social benefits of the event. They're right in their words. That's one of the requirements of the road closure for special events policy. So it's included in there for you to look at. In addition to the Dunsmuir and Sutton Road closures, the applicant is also asking that 14 diagonal parking spaces on eastbound Dunsmuir just north of Village Park are closed for the duration of their event, May 22nd to 25th. And that's to facilitate loading and unloading of the event, as well as loading and unloading participants in buses, because they're going to be going back and forth to Campbell River and then from the other locations before and after. Moving on to the noise bylaw exemption request. So the applicant asked for several exemptions. They asked for Friday through Sunday nights until 11 p.m. And then Monday night until 10 p.m. In the mornings, they asked for Saturday and Sunday mornings starting at either 9 or 9:30 a.m. And then just in an effort to balance both the positive and the negative potential impacts of the event, the staff recommendation is to grant an exemption for Friday night until 11 p.m., Sunday night until 10 p.m., and then Monday night until 9 p.m. That's a total of 4 hours of evening exemptions. And then for the morning exemptions, the recommendation is Saturday and Monday mornings. Those are the 2 mornings of their races in Cumberland, starting at 9:30. Last year, a morning exemption was granted starting at 9 o'clock a.m. We did record or document 2 noise complaints. We hope that by pushing that exemption back a half hour and also moving the primary source of the noise on one of those days to Dunsmuir rather than Village Park will help minimize the impacts on those residents. So I'm going to leave my spiel at that, but I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Questions, council? Who wants?
I'm imagining the 2 months early doesn't mean anything for the trails, like being too wet still, maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't heard any concerns from UROC. I haven't heard, yeah.
It's probably
Maybe
If
better.
it might be
anything,
too
the
dry.
trails might be more resilient with some more moisture in them than in the summer.
Fair. Yeah. I think so.
Okay, I have questions. Do you have questions?
Just a couple. This is a few more exemptions than they've asked for in the past, isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah.
It's the race seems to be, I don't know, expanding or just, or
yeah.
are they rerouting it? Why the rerouting and the additional road closures are?
Well, the road closures, that is a significant change. And part of that, I believe, is from, they haven't explicitly stated this, but last year we did have conversations about minimizing impacts of using the colliery trail. And so one of the ideas was that, hey, if we move back toward a Dunsmuir, it takes more racers, bike racers off of the colliery, and it also moves the main source of the noise into more of the commercial area and away from Village Park, which has so many nearby residents.
Okay. Makes a certain amount of sense then. Yep. They're not requesting any bagpipes again this year.
They did not request
Okay.
bagpipes this time.
That's good.
No early morning bagpipes.
That's a little too early for that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so one of my questions is around Derwent Avenue, this end. So when they close Sutton, that block is stranded. What is the word? Isolated? Blocked. It's closed, and they can't get out. And it's the only way out for them. I presume that the fire department will approve or disapprove that, and that's fine. Who notifies those neighbors that they won't be able to leave their house from 9 till 10:30 or whatever it is? 9:30 till 11? I can't remember which.
Yeah, we do ask the organizers to organize residents, and I've been in touch with them and let them know that that is a
Okay.
responsibility. Yeah, and I believe are you talking about like residents of Derwent itself?
Yeah.
Because I think they would still be able to get it. They wouldn't be able to go westbound, I guess, towards Sutton.
Oh, but
they
they can
should-
go through. They just can't go down Sutton.
Well, there'll be a brief period of time where Sutton will be closed. Basically, all the races are going to start at once, so it'll be a very short closure. Just looking at their map. I think the race starts at 9:30. So the bulk, they have the closure down until 10:45 a.m. So yeah, that is an hour and a half. It's not nothing. But yeah, they would be able to go east down Derwent and get out the other way.
Okay.
Does that?
Not the cul-de-sac, not the
Oh, okay.
western extent
Yeah,
of.
that's what I mean.
Derwent.
Like they're
Yeah.
stuck, and
Sorry,
if
you're
they're
right.
trying to go to work, or if I can't remember what the day is.
So this would be a detail in the traffic management plan.
Okay.
Like my guess is there'd have to be a traffic control point there, and you would have to enable access and egress for those residents. I believe how BC Bike Race does their start is they do it in waves. And
yeah.
so the first wave, they would, so that section of road would be closed for that hour and a half, but there would be periods of time in which traffic could get access or egress from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't want people. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that confirmation. My other question is around water, and there may be nothing we can do about this year because I think it probably has more to do with our permit process. But I did notice last year that they hook up to a fire hydrant to run showers for all those 900 riders for 3 days. That's a lot of water. Do they pay for that water? Do we have any way of knowing how much water that is and how will we charge them? Is that included in the consideration? It's a lot of water.
Yeah, I can't speak to whether we have a way of tracking it.
Oh. Okay, and would be that's not currently in the permitting process, is it?
That's right. Yeah. Do you have?
Well, within the permit comes access to utilities. So we don't charge additional for electrical or water service
Right.
at the park. It's inclusive of the permit fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we may want to consider our permit fee if you're hooking up to a fire hydrant and showering 800 people twice a day for 3 days. Just thinking.
Or putting a meter for information even for next year.
Yeah,
Maybe-
well,
maybe
they're
it's
not, this
maybe-
is the last year, so that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I'm like, it
Right,
might be too late for this, but I had no idea that I don't know where I thought they were maybe I thought they were hooking up to a hose, I don't know what I thought, but when I saw that, I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah, that's my only concerns, so.
I just have just a
Oh, sorry.
No, I have no.
I just wanted to know, is there going to be significant impacts for staff, given that the May celebrations are the weekend before? Or is that fairly minimal?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a significant difference from it being in July as opposed to May. I assume you
Well,
mean,
they're
like,
just back to back that way, or is that it's not really negligible from a staffing point of view? Or?
I think from my perspective, I think it'd be negligible. Anything from parks.
Nope, not
Yeah,
significant.
the same duties are being done.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I think we basically rent Village Park from the beginning of May until the end of August. And it's in the work plan now.
Okay.
Because we do events. Okay, so there's a recommendation there if nobody else has any further
Does it
questions.
does it need to be read in its entirety, or are you comfortable with as
Yeah.
written in the agenda? For the
Wait a minute,
detail-
I could have
for the-
done that?
No, we needed all those numbers.
Out of fairness.
Subdivision's different.
Can I just say the street closures as said and the times as said?
As recommended.
Yeah, okay.
In the staff report.
As recommended in the staff report. Okay, so I'll recommend that council approve the following temporary road closures on Saturday, May 23rd, 2026, subject to submission of an acceptable traffic management plan and all other conditions of the event process. The event closures as recommended in the staff report. Road closures. And that council approve the closure of 14 diagonal parking spaces along the south side of Dunsmuir Avenue north of the Village Park Sports Courts and Playground from May 22nd, 2026 at 8 a.m. to May 25th, 2026 at 8 p.m. And that council direct the Chief Administrative Officer to approve a noise control bylaw exemption request from the organisers of the BC Bike Race to allow amplified music and sound for the dates, times and locations recommended in the staff report.
Seconder.
Oh.
Can I, before we vote, I have one more question that I forgot, and it's around the 14 parking spaces. That's for the entire 3 days, those parking, that's our, playground parking?
That's right. It's not all of those diagonal parking spots.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure how many there are closest to. What's that?
The far end, the tree end, yeah? No.
So between 6th Street and roughly the entrance to the playground from Dunsmuir, those parking spots will all be available. And then it's around that zip line where it starts.
Okay,
And the
okay.
rest would be closed
That's
off.
great then.
Is there a reason they can't use what used to be the the Sani dump and that sort of
Boulders in
area?
the way.
Do they need hard standing? Or?
They use that for other aspects of their event,
They use it.
van life, camping.
Okay, all in favor of all those exemptions? Okay, there you go. That's carried unanimously. Next up, Rotary Orchard Park Outdoor Furniture Proposal.
Yeah, so the staff have been discussing this with members of the Rotary Club for a few years now, and we began to formalize the process with a fall delegation that council presented, or that Rotary presented to council, at which time they shared some more information on their proposal and plans for the park. The way in which the proposal came forward was informal, so following that, staff have received some direction from council to provide a report. So I'm just getting to that now. And essentially what the report is provides a little bit more detail and overview of what's being proposed. So the focal point is on a proposal for a granite couch and sofa to be installed in the park at primarily Rotary's expense. There's not too much involved of the village in either staff time or money. In addition to a few other things in the report regarding their request, the volunteer agreement, which the previous agreement's also appended to the report, fruit tree maintenance, and installation of a water service. So regarding the furniture, they've been referred to by both Rotary and in staff assessment almost as much public art as they are park furniture. And we haven't received any previous direction on this or improvements to that park. There's no specific park plan. So we haven't provided a specific recommendation, but within the body of the report, there's a draft motion if council wishes to proceed.
Thank you, and thanks for the update. I just want to start by saying that we very much appreciate what Rotary has done down in that park, particularly for me anyway, the protection of those heritage apple trees and just maintaining that park, which was in the past not well used and is rather isolated in its location. So really appreciate that relationship, and I think the furniture is, or will be, a great addition. I think my concern is that we have a lot of other things going on in the Parks Department, and we have deferred Soulport Park, and we have deferred the Village Master Plan, and so I wouldn't want, while I am in favor of moving all these things forward, and particularly the operating agreement, so that we are all mutually understanding the future of this park, and potentially adding water, and potentially, like, I love all of this. I think we would want to make sure that we are doing all the things we committed to doing before we bump this in a parks work plan. I guess that's my concern. Even though it's relatively low maintenance to install the furniture, the rest of the work I think needs to be completed first before we put, thousands of pounds of furniture in place. We would want to have an agreement, and we would want to know where that furniture is going, and I think that is the bulk of the work. And given the other sort of emerging issues in our parks, like the bottom of Perseverance Creek, and other things that need parks crews' attention, trucks and wetlands, like all of that, I think has to happen before we can give staff time to a new project that is emerging. I think we learned a lot from the Boulder project about, even though we get these great gifts, we can't always manage the implementation of them, and we don't want to discourage people from giving us these great gifts, but we want to be able to manage them within our staff's work plans. So that's my only concern. If you think you can handle that, I'm happy to have this received, and we can do the work as time allows. But that's my perspective on this. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I concur. I think the Boulder was, a good situation for us to understand staff's capacity. The list that we already have is pretty huge. So yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this is fantastic, and we don't want to not have anybody trying to bring up new cool stuff like this, but we also are pretty stacked, and just the priorities just need to be maintained at this point. And I'm super stoked on Rotary and very happy to see this move forward, but in a proper timing for staff as they see fit, I think.
Anybody else?
I think you may have said this in the report, but what is your expectation of the sort of staff time requirements for the furniture piece, at least? Because the other, absolutely everything else to do in due course.
Yeah, a lot of the work has already been done in terms of the reporting, and I think it's mostly about supporting some traffic control, some public works time to move some barriers, and then the majority of the actual works are proposed to be done by Rotary. So there would need to be a little bit of staff time on siting and specific kind of design considerations. But I don't think it is a ton of staff time. I think the challenge is, as we'll see in the next report, there's assets that we already own that need time and attention as well. And so this is adding one more. And while it's not significant, it's the cumulative impacts of lots of things. Per the mayor's comments, we just, a rather significant new emerging item in terms of village parks and trail infrastructure emerged in the flood event a few weeks ago. So that's a new one. So they all add up. This one as a standalone isn't significant in itself. But in that broader context, it is one more thing.
Can we proceed, are we still proceeding though with working to revise and update the stewardship agreement?
That work hasn't been initiated. We haven't received that direction.
And so currently we are just working along with the old agreement, and that's been working so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we maintain a good operational relationship with the club, and they're doing, some great grounds maintenance that we wouldn't likely be doing ourselves otherwise. Yeah. As well as the, like council provided, I think $500 in last year's budget for the heritage fruit trees. So that work is now being done collaboratively, which I think is quite important to that park. So yeah, we continue to really work collaboratively with the club.
And so that annual, that's not do we give an annual, or do we need to work that into the agreement as well?
That's now just operating money for
Oh, okay.
that. So we see that as delegated to staff to work
Okay.
with the club. Yeah.
So if we leave it sort of where it is right now, are we putting this into in the queue in the work plan, or are we waiting until we finish our parks plan, or how would
Yeah, where does it end up in the queue?
where does this end up if we decide that we're going to concentrate staff time on the projects that are already underway? Like, does this, like I say, join the queue at the end for now, or?
I think it would, given the importance of community partnerships in this community. I think we would go back and discuss with Rotary if we're not going to install it at this time, is there interest to consider it in the future, and we would, as part of future work planning exercises, consider it. I think we would seek council direction on the importance of having an updated agreement. Like, there's no operational issues. It's a special project. And it's a special project, and it's, from staff's perspective, it's that public art piece, which I don't think is appropriate for one individual staff person to make comment on.
Yeah. I'm not sure we want to make comments on public art pieces either.
It's a unique proposal
yeah.
in light of, there isn't another location in the community that has this type of parks furniture. Yeah.
Yeah, I think and I think it's well suited to that park as well. Yeah.
I just a question that came in. So do they have a location in mind, or is this something staff's going to have to work with them at the
We've
moment?
discussed it. If you're traveling west on the trail, it would be adjacent to the trail, kind of in the central area of the park to the right, backing onto the slope up to Camp Road.
Got it. Okay, I can picture that. And it looks like they're taking care of most of the details. Like, how much staff time? Half a day or a day, kind of thing?
Well, it's a bit of coordination.
Yeah.
There's it's been requested that Public Works move some of the boulders and provide some traffic control at the time of a crane truck delivery. And then in advance of this, we would probably check out the site and confirm, where the formwork for the concrete pad is exactly going to go, and some, details like grades and that kind of thing. So it's, like I say, it's not a huge amount of work. Certainly the boulder, which we inherited, or there was a donation of funds and the actual asset, but then the coordination and installation was all coordinated by us. Like, that one was significantly more time, and safety considerations with pea gravel. Like, I don't think it's a direct comparative.
No.
Yeah.
The last question here is, while these aren't going to dissolve away or anything like that, is there a time frame where these are being stored that the Rotaries indicated they need it out of there? I mean, they're quite large pieces. I don't know where they have
Yeah,
them.
is there an urgency?
I haven't received that information. Their intended goal would be to install them this spring.
Right.
Yeah.
I see nodding.
See, no.
Okay. So there's a recommendation there, council? If that's all the questions?
I move that council receive the Rotary Orchard Park outdoor furniture proposal report for information.
Second.
All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And next up is more park. Cumberland Lake Park swim raft replacement. Safety considerations, etc.
So this one was, well, for as long as I am aware, the park has had a swim raft, and the previous version of the raft kind of came to end of life in 2023. It was starting to fail and no longer float. So in 2023, there was a allocation of about $7,000 to the park's budget, and we replaced that with a 10 by 10 dock. The 10 by 10 size was based on what we thought would meet the needs of the park, as well as financial considerations. However, in retrospect, that was probably a mistake, because a 10 by 10 raft has proven to not be stable enough, given the number of people who often are on it and tipping and rocking it. So what happened following that was we've received some reports and complaints, as well as a formal request from Lake Park Society to either remove the raft this year or to replace it with something more stable. And so, given the public expectations at that park and the potential, challenges of decreasing that service level, staff's recommendation would be to replace it with a larger dock from the Lake Park, funded from the Lake Park Reserve, in which case we would likely be able to install it in time for swim season this year. There's a few suppliers we have checked in that would be able to work on that timeline. And we've asked for some contingency, because the one detail we're not entirely clear on is what we could get for, what value you could get from disposing the existing one. But we hope we could do it for quite a bit less than $20,000, hopefully closer to 15 or 16, but we don't know that asset disposal value yet.
Okay, thank you. Questions, council?
Having seen the shenanigans out there and understanding some of the safety concerns with kids being rowdy as they do, I wholeheartedly applaud replacement. Does this replacement take into account the anchoring system down below? Would that need to be upgraded as well? Given the increased size of this and windage as it blows up on the lake.
Yeah, we would include that in the request for a quote, is they would have to install an anchoring system suitable for this size of raft.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I see that the existing raft is 10 by 10, and the next one is 10 by 20. Sorry if it's a daft question. Why can't we buy another 10 by 10 and bolt them together?
I think because they're designed to work as one unit, and so we would probably, the stability issues would be lost if we simply bolted them together. Sorry, that's awkwardly phrased. I don't think we would get the stability we need if we simply attached the two.
Yeah, I mean, I trust that. It's probably a factual thing. I just wanted to ask the question.
Yeah, we inquired with
Yeah.
the manufacturer of this, which is a reputable organization, and they said, yeah, I think it's just an undersized raft given the use.
Yeah. Do we know how big the old one was?
I don't know off the top of my head. It was bigger than 10 by 10.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, there's a recommendation there, I think.
I'll move that council approve the replacement of the Cumberland Lake Park swim raft for safety reasons, as outlined in the staff report dated February 4th, 2026, and that council approve the expenditure of up to $20,000 to be funded through the Lake Park General Asset Renewal Reserve for the Lake Park swim raft replacement, and that council direct staff to bring forward an amendment to the adopted 2026-2030 financial plan bylaw to reflect this expenditure.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? And we're going to remove and replace at the same time.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Grab a charger for my laptop.
Okay, next up, bylaws. Water supply capital improvements parcel tax amendment bylaw,
I'll
which we've seen. Yep.
I'll just move that council adopt the water supply capital upgrades parcel tax amendment bylaw number 1253, 2026.
Second.
All in favor of that? Thank you. And the next is the financial plan amendment bylaw.
I'll move that council adopt the 2026-2030 financial plan amendment bylaw number 1255/2026.
Second.
All in favor of that one? Those are both carried. We don't have any new business, and we don't have any notices. So, we are on to question period, and our audience left. So, no live questions, no online questions. Okay, so there's then a motion to adjourn, is what we need.
Move adjournment.
All in favor of that?